were ready.
We have one shot and one opportunity to go and make this successful.
NASCAR's Cup Series making history on Sunday, racing for the first time at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. This 2.4-mile layout, and it's named after two brothers that made their mark in Formula One. Pedro, 2 Formula One victories, and the first Mexican-born driver to win in F1. And Ricardo, his brother, the youngest driver to start a Formula One race at 19 years old. That happened in the 1961 Italian Grand Prix, and it held up until 1980. And what a facility we have here, and a lot of excitement in the air for NASCAR racing here on Sunday. Here's Ryan Blaney on track. Let's go to Marty.
Yeah, Blaney flashes by pit road here on the front stretch at Mexico City. So a moment ago, Trevor talked about the travel issues for Trackhouse Racing. Ross Chastain with a little scuff with the wall. So he, just like his other teammates, only 5 crew members working on this car today during this practice session. So certainly working with more than a skeleton crew. One of the missing crew members is Brandon McReynolds. He is the spotter for Ross Chastain. So last second, they had to get the man on the very far left in the white shirt. Yes, that's Connor Zilisch with 2 NASCAR Xfinity Series wins. He's a development driver for Trackhouse Racing and drives for you, Dale Jr., in the Xfinity Series full-time. I asked him before he went out, I said, are you going to be any good at spotting? He said, I don't know, I've never done it, so probably not. So everyone doing everything they can at Trackhouse to pitch in today, Kim.
Well, Marty, let's talk spotters. You see Connor Zilisch there filling in for Brandon McReynolds. He is in the turn 15 section of the racetrack, so that's where they can see the re-entry and restart zone as well as entry onto pit road. That's where spotters are required to be. Now, each team has 3 spotters. They'll be in turn 15, in turn 1, where they can see one of the biggest passing zones, and then over in like 8-9 where that choose is going to be. Now, when I talked with a number of spotters this morning, though, they talked about how much they have to learn both in this practice and in the spotters that are doing the Xfinity race tomorrow. And there is a push to put additional spotters out on the race course. There was some concern about turns 4 and 5. There's no visibility there from spotters to drivers, as well as this stadium section is a big push. Because those turns are tight and technical, it looks like many teams will add an additional 4th spotter in that section for Sunday's race.
I asked some teams, how many spotters do you have for Sunday? They said not enough.
Not enough.
And
yeah.
that really plays well off of what Kim's talking about there.
Yeah, a lot of this racetrack is just hidden from view. No matter where you might put a spotter, what grandstand they may be in, they're only going to see that very specific area of the racetrack. And you wouldn't want to come up on a high-speed section like the S's on the back of the racetracks, turn 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and a car sitting midway in the in the middle of the racetrack backwards without some sort of a heads up. So yeah, the drivers will probably work with the spotters during this practice. Hey, what can you see? When can you not see me? Well, that's concerning for me. I need somebody to be able to see me at this part of the racetrack or see what's happening there, because you don't want to drive up on top of something, not being able to avoid it. There you see drivers using those S's, getting all over the curbs there. These curbs have been cut down since we were here with the Xfinity Series years ago. You would never get near these curbs back in the 2000s because they were so tall. There's no rules about using the runoff as much as you want. There are no track limits on corner exit. You see the drivers right here, they'll go way wide, possibly out past the curbing there. And here comes this really tough new part of the racetrack. We didn't run this back in the 2000s. They actually went around the stadium, but now they have this little area here. It's really slow, really technical, really tough. And your car, Steve, drives all over these curves. If you can help me feel less of that, I want the car not to get upset. I don't need the rear tires kind of hopping and bouncing across those curves. I need them on the racetrack so I can start to apply throttle and accelerate.
Yeah, this is a track where compromise is going to have to happen, because I'm going to want the car set away for here when it's smooth and under braking and all that. But I can't eliminate those curbs as an opportunity for my drivers and have them available for the driver, because they just improve the lane so much. I mean, look right here. They just drive straight over them. To the left there, that triangle, that banner right there, that's a tire pack. That's a tire pack as well. They have those in those 2 corners to enforce the track limits, but they're at lower speed corners. They don't have those at the S's just because they would be dangerous at the speed of the S's to have those tires out there for the drivers to hit, as we see right here. the 88. A lot of focus on SVG. This is one of the tracks where he just didn't have a whole lot of time, had some travel woes, so he didn't get to do the track walk this morning. He's figuring it out as he goes. He's currently only 3 laps into practice.
There are a lot of competitors that would say we should do that every time we go to a road course for him to level the playing field. He's so good at this style of racing. In fact, all 3 Trackhouse Chevrolets right now top 10 on the speed charts. Won in his first ever start on the streets of Chicago. And has shown some speed lately, oval racing. So you feel like he's getting his arms around the car, getting confident, getting comfortable, and you got to believe it translates when he comes to a place that no doubt should fit into his wheelhouse doing it on a road course.
It was crazy when we went to Chicago. You know, rain kind of messed the weekend up, so we didn't get a lot of track time. And as the race progressed, this driver right here just instantly started finding lanes and passing zones that I didn't naturally see, right? He just sees the racetrack so differently, and you have to just look at the upcoming schedule, right? We have Sonoma, we have Chicago, we have here, right? There's so many road courses coming up that SVG has to be feeling really good about where he is in this part of the season.
See the drivers that have won recently when we visit new venues on the road. Trevor?
Yeah, talking with Shane Van Gisbergen, and I asked him, Adam, because I said, hey, you're running way better on ovals. Does any of that at all translate back to road courses? And he said, Trevor, this is like 2 different sports. I cannot tell you how different it is to adapt to these ovals. The way that you brake, I even use my feet different in the car. Everything about it is totally different. So I just got to flip the switch and go back to what I used to do.
Sometimes you just got to go back to what you're comfortable with, right? Trying to learn. That's kind of why everybody says, hey, what's SVG do on the road course? Try to copy him. I'm like, it's one thing to see what he's doing. It's another thing to try to get your hands and feet to do it.
We just watched SVG go through a certain particular part of the racetrack back in turns 5, 6, and 7. And right there on the inside is this yellow painted line. We've heard track limits. We've heard track limits mentioned at COTA and other racetracks. This is the only area right here where we're really going to be focusing on that on Sunday. The drivers can go all the way up against that yellow line right there. We see
like that.
Yep, we see this. And even on this final corner, they can use a little bit more, be more aggressive. It'll be interesting to see. A lot of the drivers can cut a little bit of time by getting over there against that yellow line on both of these S's, really just straightening out this portion of the racetrack and really cut some time and acceleration. So it'll be interesting to see, but NASCAR is going to be keeping an eye on this. If you touch that yellow line, or if you get on top of that yellow line with the tire, that is considered infringing on the track limits, and there will be a penalty. There's a bit of a joker lane later on in the lap just beyond this that you can pull over and stop, much like we had at COTA. I think Bubba Wallace had to go into that joker lane at COTA and stop. And so that's what the drivers have asked for. Okay, we have track limits at some racetracks. We can't get away from having that. We know that's going to be part of the deal. But we don't want to have to go down pit road and do a pass-through. That's too big of a penalty for such a small gain if I were to infringe on the track limit here. So they've got the joker lane. Drivers in NASCAR have collaborated to come up with a really good solution that I think all of us can wrap our brains around.
Chase Briscoe, top of the board in practice. So good lately in qualifying. 3 consecutive poles. And you know what? He's a guy that can jump up and grab you at a road course too.
That's true. Looking at the NASCAR Insights from COTA, he was #1 at passing. He was in the top 10 of all of them. Defensive, speed, restarts. He was 3rd on restarts. And so, you know, pretty impressive, to be honest with you. You don't think about Chase Briscoe, honestly, when you think about road course racing, but he had a pretty solid competitive car and day. And COTA sliding that right front tire, a little bit of lockup right there. You're not going to be able to get away with that too much as you flat spot that tire, and it becomes difficult for it to have turn and grip. So we watch him go through this portion of the racetrack using up all of the track limit there.
It's interesting. I know the track is new, but there has been more slipping and sliding under braking than I can remember. So I just fast forward to tomorrow or Sunday specifically when spots start to be contested.
Yeah.
I mean, they're having a hard time, you know, judging the limit currently.
We have another look up
here
there.
out of the 5, yeah. So, you know, wait until they're in here trying to play a little game of chicken on who's going to slow down first.
And another thing that you talked about, Steve, is the lack of density in the air and the downforce and the drag and all the things that they're without. when you put these cars in traffic, that's even more of that stripped away from their ability to brake in the braking zones and so forth. So right now we're out there, we're practicing, we got room, we got gaps, we got all the, the cars are really getting all the advantage of the downforce that they can get. But once you put yourself, behind a row of cars in a braking zone, you're going to strip away a ton more downforce and a ton more ability to get into that braking zone.
So over 7,000 feet of altitude, what does that mean? Well, it does hurt the overall horsepower of the engine, but it reduces the downforce, which is the grip. It reduces the drag, which lets them go faster in a straight line, and it has worse cooling for the engine and the brakes. So I said earlier in the week, I'm like, really, here's the thing. It does everything you want it to do worse except for go fast in a straight line. So that makes the end of each straightaway a much bigger issue for the drivers. And when you get out there together, to your point, Dale, in a pack, it's going to be really difficult.
Let's go to 5-lap average here. When you look at our pylon, Van Gisbergen best of the bunch. A couple of Gibbs drivers behind him. Ty Gibbs, Briscoe, Riley Herbst is up there. Kyle Larson. I don't know what this tells us, but ultimately, Steve, especially in the final stage on Sunday, if you're going to win this race, you got to take care of those tires, be good on the long haul.
That and who makes mistakes. These guys to be good on a 5-lap average tells me they don't have a mistake in that run. Trevor.
Yeah, another name we would expect to see in that top 5 on the board is A.J. Allmendinger. Keep in mind, he's run 2 races here in Champ Car, finishing 2nd and 3rd, but today he is really struggling with his car. Listen to this audio.
I don't know, man. I don't know why I'm in this stuff right now with just no confidence. Like, I feel like I'm just hacking away out there. Like, feel terrible, honestly. I feel like that the last how many times I've been on the road courses.
Yeah, AJ says he's hacking away out there. He went and ran another lap, jumped up inside the top 20 with that final lap and said, Trent, that's all I've got, man. We got to work on this thing.
That's frustrating for, when you have someone like AJ behind the wheel and he doesn't have confidence. That's the biggest issue. This guy has so much talent, as Trevor just said, right? He's driven so many things and won with them and had success. Now, you don't have to be the best car, but you have to find something in this setup that he can lean on, brake with. It has to have confidence.
You talk about drivers in the points and the cut line and all those conversations that will come up. And then those that could really impact that with the win, the drivers on your screen are the ones that fit that category because they're so good at this style.
Michael McDowell won here in a Grand Am race back in the 2000s. And I spoke to him some this week about this track, and he took me for one of the best laps. He talked me through every corner, off cambered, curbing, whether he could use the curbing, all of these nuances. You could tell he had done a tremendous amount of homework, and his excitement level matched to come down here.
And his win in Cup on a road course came at Indianapolis. A lot of similarities when you talk about Indy in this place.